There was a legislative seat that's based in that area around Mountain Home, Idaho, and of course it stretches all the way down south into the Twin Falls region as well. And actually, there are two legislative seats that occupy that district in the House. You have 23A and 23B, and the latter being held right now by longtime incumbent Pete Nielsen. He is a Republican, and in recent years, he has had multiple primary challengers. This year is no different. In fact, one of those challengers in the upcoming Republican primary on May 17th is Megan Blanksma, and she is joining us this morning on Top Story on KLIX. And first of all, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is oddly enough, it's a three-way primary still at this point, from what I understand.
It is. It is.
And yet, I think the third candidate. I tried to do a little searching, and very difficult to find a lot of detail on him. So I assume now it's you may not want to look at it this way, and for obvious reasons, you may not want to describe it this way. But to me, it appears to be a 2.5-person race.
Well, I think there might be some truth to that. I don't know how committed the third party was to this, but I know that we've just been working hard on building our organization and getting out and talking to people as much as possible and focusing on that.
Now, a lot of people have challenged Mr. Nielsen over the years, and I guess have come relatively close in primaries, but they haven't managed to defeat him. What do you think is different this year, and what do you bring to the table that will that would turn I guess turn the tide on this in this case, and actually give you the nomination?
Well, I think I do have an advantage in that I am from Elmore County, and that seems to be where the population base is. And also, we have a huge list of supporters and actually worked really hard to get those people behind us before we even tried to declare. Because I don't know how many people are aware of it, but there's two ways that you can file for a legislative seat. One is to get the signatures. The other is to pay a fee. And so we kind of talked about it, folks that were friends of mine who thought this would be a good idea, and so we did both. So we went and collected the appropriate signatures and paid the fee just as insurance. And so I think that's our biggest strength is our list of supporters. We have the support of all of the commissioners that live in district. So that's all of Owyhee, all of Elmore, and then the one commissioner for Twin Falls County that lives in the district, as well as many, many more people. The list is up on our website, meganblanksma.com, if anyone wants to take a look at it.
No, I just was reading in the Spokesman Review the other day. One of those endorsements came from, was it a builders group that got behind your candidacy?
Yes, it's American General Contractors, AGC, American General Contractors. And so it's the Idaho chapter. We have also been endorsed by milk producers. We have the support of Idaho Farm Bureau. We have the support of sugar beet growers. We have potato growers are supportive. We're potato growers though, so that that hopefully that would work out regardless. So yeah, we have quite a bit of support.
Mr. Nielsen has a reputation, at least among people that I know, maybe in the Tea Party movement and among constitutionalists. He's a bit of a hero to these people, but he also has a reputation of sometimes putting maybe a foot in his mouth. Um, so he definitely has a strong base of support. I don't know that when he occasionally has those moments where he has those verbal faux pas that it's going to impact his ability to do the job. But do you think that in itself is an issue that perhaps that he's not up to speed on certain issues?
I think that's a big issue, and from comments that he made earlier this year that he was actually making decisions based on information that was 20 years old, and he fully admitted to it, and it's well documented. So I think that because our district is the third largest geographical district in the state of Idaho, I think that it takes a lot of work to understand problems and to be educated about situations. And I just don't think he offers what he may have offered in the past, in that it's important to be educated about the issues, and it's important to be involved in your community. And I think that's one thing that I have to offer to the district that I just don't know that he does.
What specifically was that issue with the old information?
He professed to believe that through rape or incest, a woman could not get pregnant because her body would protect itself. And even though that's not actually medically correct, he stood by that for some time until eventually backing off.
And that would impact, I guess, any votes on right to life, anything like that might come before a legislator.
Well, to me, it's just more of a lack of knowledge and an unwillingness to educate oneself on the issue, because I don't know that I feel much different than he does about the actual bill. The actual bill was to provide information to pregnant women when you just get down to the core of it, which I think that's great. The more information anybody has when making any kind of decision, the better off you are. The problem is when Pete decided to argue on that bill, he didn't bother to get himself as much information as he probably should have.
Our guest is Megan Blanksma, and she's joining us this morning. She's a candidate for the legislative seat in the House race in 23B, which, as she pointed out, is a massive district, which covers all the way down here to the Twin Falls area, all the way back up toward Mountain Home, and encompasses several different counties. And as I understand it, you're heavily involved in the Elmore County Republican Party.
Yes, that's correct. I'm the chair of the Elmore County Republican Party, and that was actually what got started as far as this campaign, is because we were interested in getting a little bit more active representation for the district, somebody who was involved in the communities and was interested in what was going on in the party. So that's how this all came about.
What type of Republican would you describe yourself as? Because this year we're certainly seeing, at least on the national level, we have some people who we don't know what kind of Republicans they are. We have others who would call themselves moderates, others who'd call themselves conservatives. Some might be more toward the libertarian side. What would you describe yourself as?
Well, I consider myself a conservative Republican, but I also consider myself a worker. And I think that we're missing that sometimes, in that I guess I can give you an example of in county. We had an irrigated ag assessment problem last year where our assessments went up anywhere from 600 to 1,000%. And so what I did as the county chair was to call a meeting, have the assessor come in, explain what was going on, and see if we could fix the problem. The incumbent stood up at the end of the meeting, complained about it to the newspaper, and then called the governor. When I went and worked with the assessor to find out what the problem was, we found two problems. One was that water wasn't calculated accurately in the assessment, and two was they had one cell on a spreadsheet that didn't go from one page to the next, and then all the assessments came down.
We probably still in Boise, and I don't think this comes up a lot, and I don't know that it's really all that important, but we still don't have, I think, what you'd say, a large contingent of women who are serving in elective state offices. But we do have a great many of them challenging in primaries, especially in the House this year. And I'm wondering if this is part of a new trend that we're going to be seeing across the state, and maybe a different approach to government. Maybe women have a slightly different understanding. Do you think that maybe I'm being a little too politically correct, or is there's some truth in that?
I don't know. It's kind of an unusual situation, and we get questions as a female candidate. You get questions that male candidates don't necessarily get. I know that people are very interested in how old my children are and if I think I have time for this, which I don't know that has ever been asked of a man. But
right.
So from my perspective, that part of it is a struggle to explain to people that, yes, I can multitask, and yes, I think I can do this job. And my family's all in and ready to go. So I think there's different challenges for female candidates, and you do the best you can.
Megan Blanksma is our guest, and of course she's running as a challenger in the primary on May 17th in Legislative District, House District 23B, coming up on 916 and 56 right now. When you reference potato farming, and I really, the district it covers so much agricultural territory. What is it, if you had to say, list three issues that you think 1, 2, 3 are going to be the biggest issues facing that next legislative session, what would they be?
Well, I think really we're talking about a real shift in the way Idaho acts. We've got a real dichotomy of this rural economy and then the Ada County, where it's all business driven. And I think we're really looking about whether we want to support rural economies and rural lifestyles, and we're going to have to make a decision as a state at some point in time. And I think one of the biggest issues, I know you wanted 1, 2, 3, but I think one of the biggest issues that's facing particularly rural counties and districts is the idea of connectivity. in that there are lots of places that don't have the broadband, that don't have the cell service, that, those things are essential to doing business today. And it puts some of these rural districts at a serious disadvantage to, say, folks in Ada County that are so well connected, it's almost ridiculous.
Right. If I live in Meridian, I have all sorts of services. That Meridian, Boise, even Canyon County, I've got all those services. But in Owyhee County, probably not so much.
No, you're correct. And if you actually stay in the district and you drive all the way from one end to the other, if you stay in district, don't jump on the freeway, you're going to have cell service maybe 50% of the time. And there are lots of new farming practices that are out there that can make you more efficient, that rely on being able to have that connection. And so that's where folks who still farm over on the other end of the Treasure Valley really have an advantage on us.
When you mentioned your website earlier, if people were to go there, I assume they would find, your positions on any number of issues.
Mm-hmm. That would be correct. And it's meganblanksma.com, and it has the positions on lots of issues. It has our list of supporters, and it has multiple ways to contact me. And I'm always happy to answer any questions. I like to tell people, I'll answer your question, but you might not like the answer, but I'll be happy to answer it. So
We got about a minute left, and a lot of those issues, I'm sure, are similar. I mean, when it comes to Second Amendment and various issues like that, he is behind and the like in some of the recent votes we've had on gun bills. For people out there saying, all right, if there's some similarities, why should I go with you?
well, I can give you one distinct difference. There was a bill that came up over the last session that was actually, again, this was an information bill, so you were to provide an education plan through K through 3 kids that were behind level on reading. It cost $0. It didn't force parents to do anything. It just asked that the teacher provide the parents a tool to bring their child up to reading level. He was the single legislator that voted against it in the House. He was it, one. And I think that is where the big contrast comes, in that I think that had he gone to educate himself on what that bill really said, that his vote probably would have been with the rest of the House, but he didn't bother to do that.
Well, I want to thank you for your time this morning, and I know this is going to be an interesting political year, even through the primary and then on to general elections and all of that. It's great speaking with you, and perhaps we'll have another opportunity.
Certainly, and I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
All right. Megan Blanksma joining us this morning. And she pointed out, she is a challenger in the Republican primary, one of 2 challengers to the incumbent Pete Nielsen. We're coming up on 20 minutes after 9 o'clock, and we're at 56. Bill Colley with you this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Of course, we're going to try to make the opportunity available for Representative Nielsen to join us before primary day. It's getting a little close, and we have a lot of people on the air. And as I mentioned, there's a third candidate who is also running, who's not as easy to track down. But if we can do that, we'll have all 3 of them join us at various periods during the course of the show. Got 56 right now, on our way into the low 80s today.